Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Ross on Cars. I'm Ross Furlong and this, as you can probably tell, is a Porsche 911. It's my Porsche 911 and it's my all-time favourite model, the 964 Carrera 4 in my all-time favourite spec. Slate grey with a black leather interior. Now I bought this car about 10 years ago for £19,000. Starting to look like quite a good bargain now. They're going for anything between £45,000 and £70,000 for a good one. And when I bought the car, I actually tracked down the original owner of it, and he was kind enough to send me the invoice that he paid for it at Lancaster, I think in Essex. And he paid £54,500 for it in August 1990. Which equates to about £127,000 in today's money. So it's quite an expensive car in its day. He did spec some very nice options on it, which we'll go through later. But he told me that what he'd decided to do was kind of spec a gentleman's tourer to do European tours in. I think he only ended up doing one in the end, but he sent me a very nice photo of the car in the Alps, surrounded by snow, and no doubt the four-wheel drive came in quite handy there. Now, the designer for this Porsche was a guy called Benjamin Dimpson. He was the head of design for Porsche back in the late 80s, and he'd already designed the 928 Series 2 and the 959. And he was tasked with the weighty responsibility of redesigning the iconic 911 and bringing it into the 90s. What he wanted to do was create a very pure version of the 911, which was going against kind of design trends at that point, and really just try and distill what he called Bauhausian elements into it and making it very simple and very pure. Now, one of the things that he did retain from the old model was the fender, these what they call these kind of cannon tubes. This is a favourite feature of mine on 911s, and I feel like it's a key part that he managed to retain. It goes all the way back to the 1963 Porsche 911, the first one, and all the way through to this model it's been retained. He did pay attention to aerodynamics though. You know, it's not all about these. It had a much more slippery shape, and you can see it had integrated bumpers and integrated headlights here as well, were new to this car in 1989. So this car has these very lovely Design 90 wheels. It's probably my favourite wheels of all time, certainly on this model. They're 16-inch. You could have got 17-inch or 16-inch cup wheels for this car. But one thing I noticed when I bought it was that there was a big gap between this wheel arch here and the tyre. There's sort of almost about 40 mils. So I did what a lot of other 964 owners have done and had it lowered. And I feel it just gives it a much kind of squatter, more aggressive look at both ends. Now, the real party piece, of course, of this car is the spoiler around the back. So this spoiler obviously is flush to the car when it's in situ or when it's going below 50 miles an hour, but above 50 miles an hour it comes up for more downforce, obviously, when you're going fast. And a number of times over the last 10 years when I've been at traffic lights and I look in the rear view mirror and my spoiler's coming down and I see someone doing this kind of action to explain to their passenger, you know, what's happening with this particular car. So I think it became a kind of quite a famous part of the car. Underneath here you can see it says Carrera 4. This model was actually launched in four-wheel drive mode. The Carrera 4 was the only one you could get in 1989. A year later they brought in the Carrera 2. And this car overall was meant to be 85% new, according to Porsche at the time. So it had new features like ABS, it had coil springs, it had a brand new engine in it, the M64, which was a 3.6 displacement as opposed to the 3.2 that came in before it. And that was good for 250 brake horsepower. Car only weighs about 1,400 kgs, so 0 to 60 ends up being about 5.5 officially. Top speed 161 miles an hour, and miles per gallon, if you're interested in that, is somewhere around 22 to 24 on average. So when you get inside the 964, not much had changed really from the 3.2 before it. It still had the 5 dials at the front with a big rev counter in the middle, which is exactly the right place to have it. This car doesn't have airbags, though most 964s did. I think this is just a very early one, so it's slightly before the airbags came in, twin airbags were put in. There were a few options on this car, as I mentioned earlier. So one of the key ones in here, very different for the time and very modern for the time, was a climate control. So you can set the temperature, obviously, for the temperature that you wanted in the car. And this was very cutting edge. And looking at the original bill of sale, this option here cost £1,706. So quite a pricey option at the time. The other options they had in this car was an electric sunroof, as you can see, that's £1,093. They had sports seats fitted at £430. These are quite important because they've got higher bolsters on the side, stop you slipping around. And a few other minor things like this tint here, I think he added for £38. There's a little bit of piping around the seat here, which was in slate to match the exterior, so that was £94. So all in all, just a very, very nice spec in here. And I think it's about time we took it for a spin. So the first thing you notice about this car is that it feels very sort of visceral. It feels very connected to the outside, through the wheel, through your seat. You can really feel everything that's going on. I used to have a 993, the next model, years ago, and it had quite a lot more tech, and it didn't really feel quite as connected to the road as this thing does, which I really like about it. The other thing I always really notice about this car is the engine note. It has a fantastic noise from this flat six, and in fact that noise is the very reason I'm even sat in this car right now. Before I bought the car, I was in a hotel in France. I was at reception, I heard this noise outside, and I knew it was a flat six, but I just didn't know which Porsche it belonged to. So I went outside and there was this slate grey Porsche 964 and a sort of glamorous French couple getting out of it. And when I got back to the UK, I thought to myself, I've got to see if I can get hold of one of these things. Did a quick Google, and luckily one slate grey one came up. They're quite rare, and I think I put a deposit down the same day, and turned out to be one of my better impulse buys. Apart from the engine noise, also the gearing is fantastic on this. It's got the G63 four-wheel drive gearbox version of the G50 that's in the Carrera 2. And Porsche aficionados really do rate this gearbox. I think it's one of the best. Rather sadly, I have a favourite gear. It's third gear, and third gear can take you from 30, 35 miles an hour all the way up to 100, and you can drop it into third from fourth at 70, 80 miles an hour on the motorway and it will still go. An amazing, amazing thing, the gearing on this. This is a four-wheel drive car. I like a four-wheel drive 911. Maybe I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, but it's also very useful when the roads are a bit slippy or with snow or during the winter. I think some purists and people who like to do track days prefer the two-wheel drive, because it gives them a slightly more nimble feel. And probably the ultimate version of that is the 964 RS. And that car, I happen to know someone around here who has one. I'm hoping to get a closer look at it soon, so I'll keep you posted on that. But meanwhile, I think, it's a lovely day. I think I'll just take this for a drive. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching this as much as I've enjoyed making it today. I've got a couple of very nice cars coming up. I've got a 964 RS and a stunning Aston Martin Vanquish that I'm going to be reviewing in the next couple of weeks. So please do press subscribe if you want to see those. And also, let me know what you think about this. Is it really the best 911 out there? Be really interested to hear your comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.